ball was
much maligned.
Much maligned. It was a lot of conversations about what that's going to look like, and boy, I was not on that train of expecting what we've seen. I was not expecting 90 points in 2 games. I was not expecting one of the better pass rushing teams in the NFL to get 0 pressures on our quarterback. What have you seen? What have you been hearing about this team, and what has changed from preseason to these first 2 games offensively, especially on the offensive line? Where'd he go?
I got it.
And that was it. And like I love Pete Carmichael, and I like Joe Lombardi, and I like these people. But I think what we're seeing is that those guys, it was all Sean Payton, it was all Drew Brees. And what Payton's doing in Denver now, it may have just been all Drew Brees. Because, I mean, last year, their offense was so stale and so predictable, and they're just, I mean, it was a shell of what we saw in those great years when they were an offensive juggernaut. And now it's the same players. It's still Derek Carr in year 11. It's still Alvin Kamara. It's still Shaheed. It's still Olave. It's still Penning and McCoy and Ruiz. I mean, literally, the scheme and the coordinator is the only thing that's different. And it's working. And it's not just working. It looks next level great. And it was one thing to do it against Carolina, who is not even an NFL team. I mean, they're embarrassing. But it's another thing to do it against a Dallas team that's won 12 games 3 years in a row, that is considered a real contender, that has some elite players on defense, that just went to Cleveland and embarrassed them. And to go there and to do that and to execute at that level, I mean, look, it's 2 of 17. They got another big challenge this week. They got another big challenge in a few weeks against Kansas City. We're going to learn more about this team, but I don't think anybody could have dreamed this offense this soon, performing this well in every single phase. It's truly, it's mind-blowing. The last I remember this, in my friend and colleague here in New Orleans, Jeff Duncan, mentioned it in his column today, and I said it a few times earlier this week. In 2009, they brought on Greg Williams as defensive coordinator. We knew Drew Brees was elite. We knew the Saints offense was elite. In 2008, Drew Brees was the first NFL quarterback to pass for 5,000 yards since Dan Marino, and they went 8-8 because the defense was trash. They fired the coaching staff. They brought in Greg Williams. Next thing you know, one coach, they went to the Super Bowl. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, like the Saints are going to the Super Bowl this year, but that's the closest comparison I have of ridding yourself of a system and a coaching staff that's not working, because they really had the same players. You know, Vilma was there in 2008. He was elite in 2009. Roman was there in 2008. He became elite in 2009. You know, Tracy Porter, Jabari Greer, like it was the same guys. They just were opportunistic and played so much better with Greg Williams there coordinating than they did with Gary Gibbs. And I think right now what we're seeing with the Saints offense is the players are being put in a much better position, and the game plan is so much better under Gary Kubiak than it was under Pete Carmichael. And I really like Pete, and I hope he has success with Sean Payton in Denver.
He's not.
But I think what we're seeing with Kubiak early this season is that anything tied to Sean Payton and Drew Brees was just Sean Payton and Drew Brees. And any attempt to keep that alive was something the Saints made mistakes on by thinking Pete can run this system, he just needs a quarterback. Well, that system looks like it needed to go with Sean Payton the day he walked out the building.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we're talking a little X's and O's here. The system maybe have been a little archaic, and you bring in Klint Kubiak, and he's doing what he's doing. You got the emergence of like legit
emergence of Rashid Shaheed, and he's becoming to be a true threat. And them early on in the season being able to open up the things that they're doing over the top is going to force some defenses to do some different things. Well, somebody we haven't seen, two people we haven't seen a whole bunch of so far, if you ask me, are Chris Olave and one Taysom Hill, obviously, as a Swiss Army knife in different roles. Do you foresee, as the season keeps going, if these guys are able to stay healthy, with the ability for Rashid to kind of take the top off of the defense, for things to really start opening up underneath for an Olave, for the run game when you put Taysom in and you kind of do different things with him?
Yeah, look, I'll say this. I think you saw it yesterday. Look, Olave wasn't much of a factor in game one, and you saw the routes he was running yesterday and how open he was. And I think it's because of that zone blocking and the running and the way they use Kamara. And look, James Hurst, who was starting on this offensive line last year, is one of our analysts here at WDSU now in retirement. I jokingly asked him, are you upset you're retired? Because, you could easily leave us and come out of retirement and play on this offense. Last year, you got to listen to people boo you, and now you're all of a sudden being celebrated nationally, or this offense is being celebrated nationally. But he said that creates, and I'm sure like you all as baseball players, if a guy has a pitch he can throw for a strike and you know he has it, just the mind games they can play with you, knowing that they can throw something for a strike and they're not just limited to one or two pitches, that they have that third pitch. The fact that Carr in week one was able to hook up with Shaheed on third down, 3rd and 4, 59-yard touchdown. Yesterday, second series, first play, 70 yards. I mean, those two plays are like things we haven't seen since Drew Brees in his prime, because Drew Brees at the tail end going vertically was challenging for him. And so the fact that they can do that opens up so much more and keeps defenses honest so much more. The final years of Brees, teams cheated in, knowing he wasn't able to push the ball downfield. Last year, the knock on Carr was, when he feels the pressure or when it's 3rd and short, he's going for the sticks. He's checking down. He's getting rid of it quick and not even looking for those throws. Knowing that he's taking those shots, and he's had to take some shots in the face to make those throws, I think it opens up a world of possibilities for this offense and makes them, and that's one of the reasons why we have seen them early and often jump on defenses. Well, maybe not Carolina, but Denver's defense, jumping on defenses that's not what you see from them. But because the Saints' ability to play vertically and to still be able to find Kamara in the screen game, I mean, look, I think keeping the defenses on their heels and them not knowing what's coming has been a huge part of this. So yeah, Jared, I think it's only going to continue. They've only scratched the surface of what they can do, and we have only seen glimpses. But and again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here because it's only 2 weeks. But what they've done in those 2 weeks is just like mind-blowingly exceptional.
And look, I think a lot of people, everybody knows how good Alvin is, right? Everybody's seen it over the course of his career, but over the last couple of years, he hasn't really been healthy. Offense has been pretty stale. He's kind of been zeroed in on. And it kind of felt like he was getting bored with kind of what was going on. I said bored, maybe not the right word, but it was almost like he was like, hey, we've got to figure something out. We've got to adjust. We've got to do something because can't just keep running forward for 4 or 5 yards and not being able to do it. It feels like Klint Kubiak has taken a lot of the system and a lot of the formations and a lot of the creativity out of San Francisco, brought it here, and inserted Alvin into a position like McCaffrey is over there, sitting him out in motion. He's back in the screen game. This Alvin Kamara looks like the Alvin Kamara of old, and it's very fun to watch. And it's got to be refreshing to him and kind of giving him a new jolt of energy.
Yeah, and I think like those cha-ching signs in his eyes you're seeing as well.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he wanted the new contract, and he has been fantastic. Look, McCaffrey was the NFL Offensive Player of the Year last year. He's now the highest paid running back in the history of football at $19 million per. I'm not saying Kamara's there yet, but you're right. This is the Alvin Kamara vintage from 2017 through 2021. And then the last couple of years, because of the stale offense, because of the poor quarterback play, because of the system, a lot of different things, he just wasn't the same guy because of some nagging injuries. But, I mean, he looks fast and engaged. I mean, like getting that ball yesterday on that screen, I mean, that was vintage Kamara. And so in years past, especially that year with Jameis Winston and then last year with Derek Carr, it was, here, check down to Alvin and let him go 1-on-4 and hope he does something. And that was just so unfair for him. But now that there is balance, it's amazing to see how good this guy is. I think we forgot. And I think people forgot in Carolina. They had poor quarterback play. McCaffrey's numbers were dipping, the injuries. And then all of a sudden, San Francisco gets him, and he gets with Shanahan, and Purdy's in, and it's revitalized him. I hope that this is what we're seeing from Alvin Kamara, that Klint Kubiak is using this San Francisco, zone blocking and run game system, and that the way they're using pre-snap motion and how they're using him in the screen game. Look, I think it's very similar to Christian McCaffrey. I think this offense reminds me of what we saw in San Francisco the last couple of years and what we see now in San Francisco. And so again, I don't have a vocabulary strong enough to talk about how impressive the Saints are the first couple of weeks, how impressive Klint Kubiak is. And look, defensive coordinators are smart. They're going to figure some things out. Philly's got a really good defense, and it's going to be a really tough test coming up this Sunday. But we said Dallas was going to be a really tough test, and the Saints passed that test with flying colors. So let's see what they do this Sunday. But I know they feel confident. I know the players are buying in. Look, last year, I even thought after the game yesterday, listening to Dennis Allen, Marshawn Lattimore the last 2 years has missed 17 games with injury. He wanted to be traded. He hit a rough patch with Dennis Allen. He and Allen have talked about that. Well, I think he realizes, boy, we're pretty good again. And Dennis Allen even said he was chomping at the bit to play. It's like when guys that may not have been 100% engaged are now chomping at the bit to play and get out there. I think that's a good sign that the belief in the locker room is as strong as it has been in years, that they believe in the system, they believe in each other. And there's always in sports that faith, believe in what we're doing, but at some point you need tangible results. It needs to become reality, not just rhetoric. In the first 2 games, we are seeing the reality of this, and there's something tangible for them to hold on to.
Fletch, let me ask you this. You have a unique perspective because you talked about James Hurst now works with y'all. He's been in New Orleans for a long time. He's seen the offense. He's about as, I don't know the right word. He's about as equipped, or he's about as the perfect person to ask about this next question. Have you talked to him about what has changed between with the offensive line and what they're doing now compared to what they were doing maybe in the preseason, or what it looked like they were going to do last year, and how they've improved so much? Like, what's the biggest difference that he has said, or has he mentioned that?
Yeah, and look, he talked about that. He was very open and honest with us about that, saying that like last year there were times that he goes, look, to start the season, I couldn't believe how honest he was, where he said the offensive line play to start the season really doomed them last year. Like, he didn't want to blame Derek Carr for everything. He really owned the way the O-line played at the beginning of last season. All the pressure Carr faced, Carr learning the new offense. He goes, we didn't do him any favors as an offensive line, early last season. And then because of that, it made Carr, I hate to say, seeing ghost and jittery and check down master and not letting routes develop later in the season. But he said that the offensive line play was poor to start the season last year. The offensive line play, we had all kinds of questions about the offensive line. Can Penning be the starter at right tackle? Who's going to be playing left guard? Is Fuaga going to be a dude? Well, Fuaga's a dude. Penning at right tackle has been pretty good so far, held up in pass protection, and has been a mauler in the run game. And all the questions we had about the O-line, they haven't been answered in 2 weeks. but you certainly feel a lot better about what you've seen. And it really is just about blocking the guy in front of you. He said last year they just didn't do a very good job. There were all sorts of holes and weaknesses and poor play on the offensive line. And to start this season, you are seeing a much more cohesive unit and much better results.
And I have a question on exactly Derek Carr. Have you ever seen somebody flip the script in the narrative of how they are felt in the city, how much Derek Carr has, whether it be the celebrations? And it feels like if you spend more than 1 year in New Orleans, the city kind of takes you over, and it feels like his personality has started to show out a little bit and kind of gel with what New Orleans wanted him to be, where he's an adopted kid and now he understands what the parents want.
Yeah, no, look, I'll say this, and that's another great question too, is I just ran during our sportscast here at 6 o'clock. I queued up a bite from Jim Morrow, who also is with us here at WDSU. Last year, he and I were in LA after the Saints lost to the Rams, and I said, is Derek Carr the guy? And like in full-blown Mora-isms, he's like, no! And he's like,
playoffs!
Carr is who he is. He's like, he's 10 years in. He's not going to get better. This is who he is. But last night he said, I'm wrong. Like, he's not, like, he needed a system. Maybe all the talk, it sounded like excuse making. He's played for so many coordinators. It's unfair to him. Maybe it wasn't excuse making. Maybe there was something to that he just needed to find the right coordinator in the right system. But look, this is a guy who last year, I hadn't heard a quarterback get booed in the Superdome since Aaron Brooks during the 03-04 years. And that's a long time. Breeze never got booed in the Dome. And so last year to hear the fans rain down boos on Derek Carr was an eye-opening experience. And now I think on Sunday, I think they're going to call out the defense because they called out the offense in game one. But I think you're going to hear a lot of people cheering and celebrating Derek Carr, and I think that's good. Look, we all live in South Louisiana. We all deal with storms. We all, I think, resonate with people, places, things like bruised and battered, but not broken. And I think that we have tested, and I mean the Saints fans here and even the media have tested his resolve. And maybe he's fighting through that, and we are going to see a guy who just kept fighting through it and is now going to be the best version of what we always thought he could be, and fans always thought he could be, and the Saints always thought he could
be. I want to change the tone a little bit, but like playing with the lead is one thing. Playing with as many guys that have experience on that defense is another thing. But we all know that's not going to be the role for 17 straight games. How do you see this defense continuing to go forward, and how do you see them playing and being able to keep the level of play up that they've shown so far through 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'll say this. The one thing that I've always given Dennis Allen credit for, and I've compared him to Steve Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo was an amazing coordinator with the Giants. Got a chance to be a head coach with the Rams. Didn't work out. He's bounced around. He's found a home again as a great defensive coordinator, Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. Dennis Allen is a great defensive coordinator. Yeah. I still don't know if he's a great head coach. I hope this year he proves he's a great head coach. But the thing about the Saints, even those last years of Drew Brees, Dennis Allen's defense was the backbone of those teams in 19 and really certainly in 20 when Brees was in his final year. And even in the 21 when they were playing with Jameis in the carousel of quarterbacks. So, look, I think Dennis is a great X's and O's guy. That first game against Carolina, when he had a weaker opponent that was confused by everything, he sent exotic pressure left and right and made Alontae Taylor the sack leader in the NFL with 3 sacks from the safety position. I think his game plan on Dak Prescott was masterful. And so I think that as long as they can stay healthy defensively, because they are a little long in the tooth. Right. Tyron's old for NFL players. Tyron's old. DeMario's old. Cam's kicked inside now a lot, but he's old. Chase Young has dealt with health issues, his entire career. That's my biggest concern, Jared, is health on the defense.
I didn't want to say it. I wanted to make you say it. I just want to let you know I didn't want to say it. I wanted to make you say it.
Yeah, but that's it. But like X's and O's wise, Dennis Allen to me is an awesome defensive coordinator. And like they have great coaches on that side of the ball, and they have elite players on that side of the ball. My biggest concern for the defense is don't lose multiple guys for weeks at a time. Like if DeMario goes down and Tyrod goes down, or if Marshawn's still out, like that's the problem that I think they face is I question sometimes like the depth at the safety position, in the depth on the defensive line if they lost multiple guys. So that's my only concern defensively. But other than that, one of the saving graces the last few years has been this defense. So I feel like it's been the offense, the quarterback, the coordinator. What are we doing? Why isn't it Peyton Breeze? So defensively, I don't want to just dismiss it, but I feel like they're in a solid spot right now, coaching, playing. The only thing that could derail that unit would be a rash of injuries to key players.
Fletch, we're not going to keep you too much longer, but I do want to mention this. So, the last couple of years, it kind of felt like the Dome was getting a little bit
restless.
Yeah,
stale.
Frustrated. Stale is the word. I didn't want to. We used it earlier. I didn't want to, but feels like just got to give them an inch, and they take a mile. And it feels like the Dome is kind of back. You could hear it. In Dallas,
took over Jerry's World.
You could hear how the chants, the who dat chants. I can't imagine what the Dome's going to be like on Sunday. I'm hoping to be in that number. What's the feel around New Orleans? Because when football is good and the Saints are good, it feels like New Orleans is a party every day, even more than it already is.
Does. And we haven't experienced that party in a few years. So I think you're right. It's hard to put into words what we're seeing now because, like Sean Payton, Drew Brees, Reggie Bush, they found instant success right away. They came in here, they opened up 3-0, and they rode it to their first ever NFC Championship game, and they were the Kings forever. I do think, just look at the tickets on the secondhand market. And I get it. A lot of people from Philly are coming down because it's a great trip, and we always have a great contingent from Philadelphia that comes down here. They're loud, they're rowdy, they party, they travel with their team. But week one, tickets on the secondhand market to get in to see Saints Carolina when people were really down on the Saints, really down on Derek Carr. Carolina's a joke. Tickets to get in were as cheap as $11. We just did a story. The cheapest ticket right now on SeatGeek or one of the secondhand markets, $218. So it just shows that, sure, the Philly fans are coming, but the Saints fans are ready to party and celebrate and cheer on Derek Carr and Shaheed and Kamara and Olave. And again, I hope that this isn't fool's gold, so to say, that, they fall off a cliff here and reality sets in, because we're just starting to inch back to look, I've been here 22 years now. The Saints, during Peyton Breeze' heyday, they won something like 21 straight primetime games in the Dome. And the Dome was just this raucous, amazing home field advantage. And I do think we're at least going to see a semblance of that on Sunday against what is a pretty good Philly team and what is another statement game for the black and gold.
Kind of wish that was a night game. I kind of wish they'd fly. They can't,
you would a night.
I wish they can't do it, but
they have one against the Chiefs at the Chiefs on Monday Night
Football. Yeah, but it's not in the Dome. It's not in the Dome. It's different when it's in the Dome. You have a lot of the schedule in New Orleans this year. You have a lot of interesting games. Obviously, Sean comes back to New Orleans, right? Broncos play at Saints. You have Jaden Daniels coming into New Orleans, so like there's going to be a big contingency. So it's a fun home schedule, it feels like, and it's nice to have the Saints back, or the Saints fans back, believing in the team, and it just brings more energy. It makes it more fun to go to, for sure.
Yeah, no, look, I agree. I mean, look, it's easier to cover them when everybody's happy and they're good than constantly. Oh, can you still see me there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, we're going for a ride.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Sorry, somebody tried to call me, so I was just
that's how you avoid it. Good job.
No, it's easier to cover. Like, again, I feel like I'm a professional, and I have no problem like saying they stink or doing commentaries. I think it's cavalier sometimes to talk about people's jobs and making changes and stuff like that. But this is all still like sports entertainment, and good and bad. I think people understand that. But it is much better to celebrate what they're doing offensively and think about the great possibilities of what could be. Could the Saints play in the big game in the Big Easy? The dream of the Super Bowl in New Orleans with the hometown team. That's at least better than talking about who's our next coach and running Derek Carr and Dennis Allen out of here with pitchforks, so to say. So, yes, it's better for everyone when the Saints win, and it's fun when they win. It's not like painfully winning. No offense, I know y'all are in Baton Rouge. Like, escaping South Carolina and painfully winning is not, it's great, but it's not, it's still the uneasiness. Winning in a fun way, like the Saints are doing right now, and it's like second lines down Poydras Street celebrating everybody is a lot better.
Real quick, you're a very stylish man. I wanted to get your thoughts on Daryl Moose Johnson's suit on the left there, if you can see that.
Yeah, that thing is a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, like that's something that I may have worn like a time and a place. I gotta admit, every now and then I'll
You
wear
can't
a
go
crazy
plaid
suit. You guys
with
have
the
to have-
stripes.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know, and it's also like we're past Labor Day, and that's kind of like an
Buttercream croc skin.
That's a whole lot of different patterns right there.
Yeah, like I'm not sure about that one. Like I just feel like somebody needed to pull him aside and say, Moose, like dude, like you know, like maybe reel it in. So Sharif Ishak, who you all know that I work with here. I think he would enjoy that. Like, he and Lance wore last year.
So are you trying to say Sharif's a bad dresser? I'm telling him.
I'm not saying he's a bad dresser.
Just needs some lights in the
saying
closet.
He's a little bit more outlandish than me.
Okay.
And he may appreciate that more than I do.
Yeah, I'm more the guy on the right than the guy on the left, for sure. No doubt.
I mean,
Yeah,
'cause
I'm
you
wearing
look
navy
sharp
blue
right
suit.
now.
I'm not saying I don't have that in my closet, and I'm not saying I can't go to it. But to me, that's more like a double reverse flea flicker than it is, you know, like a
The annexation of Puerto Rico?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Fletch, dude, we appreciate you. I know we've had you always are welcome on the show. You're always gracious with your time. We love having you on, especially when you're in the studio dressed like that to the nines, especially when the Saints are good. Hopefully we continue to have you on. They continue to win. If I'm in New Orleans on Sunday, which it looks like I may be there, I'll give you a ring. I know you'll probably be working, but if I can stop by and say what's up.
He's just trying to get on the sidelines, dude.
Dude, you're a member of the media. Just tell him you need a pass.
I'm working on that. Don't
tempt me.
Give me an inch, I'll take a mile. Give me an inch, I'll take a mile. Done it before. Man, I appreciate you. Everything all
and
good?
Lloyd, thank you. I'm gonna go get a new cover now to make sure that thank you for telling me my screen looks like crap and I was in a fog and now I'm crystal clear. So
hey, everything
I'll
all good in
too.
New Orleans, hurricane wise, flood wise, everything good on your end?
Yeah. I was out in storm coverage. We all go into storm coverage, but yeah, everything's fine. This to me was like a storm like that I think we all experienced growing up here. Power goes out for a few days. Thankfully, nothing catastrophic. Thankfully, no loss of life. Unfortunately, there's a little flood water here, but we're all back to normal a couple of days later. Katrina was the massive outlier.
Right. Yeah.
Ida was a massive outlier because of the unfortunate and horrific destruction they caused. But I feel like this was like a normal storm for South Louisiana. Right. And let's hope that storm season is over and we can just focus on like football season.
Football, there you go.
Absolutely. Fletch, appreciate you, man. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Enjoy Monday Night Football. We'll have you on again soon, man.
Give us a pick.
All right, anytime.
Who do you like tonight?
All right.
You like the Eagles?
Yeah, I do like the Eagles. I also I'm just like I just can't stand the Falcons. So like it's hard for me to ever say I like the Falcons. So yeah, I'm all about fly Eagles fly tonight.
All right, love it. All right, man.
Sets up for a great day in the
Sets up for a
dome.
great Sunday.
He's the best.
He is the best.